What if returning to the past could unravel everything you built? Evelyn Whitmore, the heiress who fled her family's crumbling legacy, returns to the manor that haunts her. But this time, she's not just running from her past. She's forced to face the dark secrets buried within its walls. What she discovers will change not only her life, but also the future of the town that once turned its back on her. Join Evelyn and Jack Harper, the boy who once helped her escape, as they uncover the buried truths of Whitmore Manor and piece together a future built on trust, healing, and redemption. Would you risk everything to heal the wounds of your past? Would you help someone rebuild their life, even if it meant confronting your own? The storm raged over Marlow, a small town cradled in the shadow of the Appalachian foothills, where secrets linger like fog. Whitmore Manor stood at the edge of town, its Gothic silhouette battered by rain, its spires piercing the sky like accusations. Evelyn Whitmore, 35 and hollowed by years in Manhattan's gilded cages, stood in the manor's foyer, her boots leaving muddy prints on the cracked marble. She hadn't set foot in this house since she was 20, fleeing its ghosts and her family's fractured legacy. Now, a lawyer's letter and a nagging pull in her chest had dragged her back. The air reeked of damp wood and regret, and a relentless drip, drip, drip from the basement echoed through the empty halls. Her phone glowed in the dark, a lifeline to a name she hadn't spoken in years. Jack Harper. She remembered him as a boy with steady hands and quiet kindness, the 12-year-old who jimmied open a locked car door when she was 8, trapped and sobbing as her parents' screams echoed outside. He'd handed her his blue handkerchief, a small act that anchored her. She didn't know the man he'd become, but Marlow was a small town, and Jack was still here, running a garage. She needed someone to fix the basement leak, or so she told herself as her thumb hovered over his number. The truth was murkier, a tangle of memory and instinct she couldn't name. Jack Harper was elbow deep in a truck's engine when his phone buzzed, the storm rattling the tin roof of Harper's garage. The number was unfamiliar, and he nearly ignored it. Marlow folks didn't call at night unless it was trouble, but something made him wipe his hands and answer. "Harper," he said, voice rough, braced for bad news. "Jack, it's Evelyn. Evelyn Whitmore." Her voice was polished, city-sharp, but it cracked on her name, like it didn't fit her anymore. He froze, the wrench in his hand forgotten. Evelyn Whitmore, the girl who'd vanished after a parent's scandal, whispers of infidelity, debt, and a public unraveling. He hadn't thought of her in years, not consciously, but her name hit like a spark in dry grass. "What do you want, Evelyn?" "There's a leak in the manor's basement. It's bad. Can you come?" He glanced at the rain-lashed windows. The manor was a half-hour drive, and he didn't trust jobs tied to old money. They came with strings. But her voice, tight with something unspoken, tugged at him. "It's late. Tomorrow morning?" "It can't wait." A pause, heavy with meaning. "Please, Jack." He sighed, already grabbing his jacket. "All right, I'm coming." The manor's iron gates groaned as Jack's truck rolled through, headlights slicing the downpour. The house looked worse than he remembered, its windows dark, ivy strangling the stone like veins. Evelyn stood on the porch, a silhouette in a tailored coat, her auburn hair damp and clinging to her face. She looked out of place, a polished stranger in a crumbling ruin. "Thanks for coming," she said, her smile flickering like a dying bulb. "It's a mess down there." He nodded, toolbox in hand, and followed her inside. The air was thick, the kind of damp that settled in your bones. She led him through a labyrinth of dust-sheeted furniture, to a staircase plunging into darkness. The basement smelled of earth and rot, water pooling on the stone floor, reflecting his flashlight's beam. "Over there," Evelyn said, pointing to a corner where water seeped from a jagged crack in the wall. But her eyes weren't on the leak. They were on him, searching, like she was trying to find the boy she'd known. Jack set to work, inspecting the damage, but his mind churned. Why call him? Marlow had plumbers, contractors, people better suited for this. He remembered Evelyn as a kid, wide-eyed and trembling, clutching his handkerchief like a lifeline. He'd been 12, already hardened by his father's expectations, already knowing life didn't hand out second chances. What did she want now? As he applied sealant to crack, Evelyn lingered, her presence a weight. "You stayed in Marlow," she said, not a question. Why? Someone had to. His tone was even, but it carried an edge. Family. The garage. You know how it is. I don't, actually. Her laugh was brittle, like glass about to shatter. I ran as far as I could. He glanced at her, catching the strain in her face. And now you're back. She didn't answer, just handed him a rag when he reached for one. Their fingers brushed, and she pulled back like she'd been burned. The silence stretched, broken only by the drip of water and the storm's distant roar. When he finished, he stood, wiping his hands. That'll hold for now, but you need a proper fix. I can come back. That's not why I called you, she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. He froze, the words hanging between them like a trap. Then why? She opened her mouth, then closed it, her eyes darting to the shadows. There's something else in the house. Something I need you to see. Evelyn led him upstairs, her steps deliberate, like she was walking toward judgment. She stopped at a locked door off the main hall. It's carved with faded roses. This was my father's study, she said, producing a key from her pocket. I found it this morning. I haven't been inside since I was a kid. Jax got twisted. He didn't like this. Secrets, old houses, the way her hand shook as she turned the key. The door groaned open, revealing a room frozen in time. A mahogany desk, shelves of leather-bound books, a fireplace choked with ash. But what caught his eye was a wall behind the desk, where a panel had been pried open, exposing a hidden compartment. Evelyn stepped inside, her breath hitching. I found this when I was looking for the leak source. There's something in there. He approached, flashlight in hand, and peered into the compartment. Inside was a metal box, rusted but intact, with the initials EW etched on the lid. Her father's? Or hers? He glanced at her, but she was staring at the box like it might bite. You want to open it? He asked. She nodded, her jaw tight. I can't. Not alone. He pried the lid off, the hinges screaming. Inside were letters yellowed and tied with twine, a leather journal, and a photograph of two men. One he recognized as Evelyn's father, Edward Whitmore, and the other, his own father, Tom Harper, younger, smiling, their arms around each other's shoulders. Jack's heart stuttered. What the hell is this? I don't know, Evelyn whispered, but I think it's why I'm here. The next weeks became a ritual of discovery and repair. Jack returned to the manor each morning, toolbox in hand, but the basement leak was a footnote. The real work was in the study, where they pored over the letters and journal, piecing together a story neither had known. The correspondence between Edward Whitmore and Tom Harper revealed a friendship forged in the Korean War, a bond that carried them through Marlowe's lean years. They'd been brothers in arms, sharing dreams of better future. But the letters hinted at a fracture, a debt, a betrayal, a promise broken. One letter, dated a year before Evelyn left Marlowe, made her gasp. Your father saved mine, she read aloud, her voice trembling. Tom, I owe you my life. If I fail her, protect Evelyn. Jack's throat tightened. Fail who? Your mother? Maybe. Evelyn's eyes were distant. Or me. The journal was harder to face. Edward's entries chronicled his descent into regret, his fear that Evelyn would inherit his mistakes. She's stronger than us, he wrote, but this house will break her if she stays. Another entry, written a month before his death, praised Jack. The Harper boy has his father's heart. If anyone can anchor her, it's him. Jack pushed the journal away, his chest tight. This is too much. Why drag me into this? Because you're part of it, Evelyn said, her voice fierce. You were there, Jack. When I was scared, when I needed someone, you were there. And now I need you again. He wanted to argue, to walk away, but her eyes held him, vulnerable, raw, like the girl in the locked car. He stayed. What do you carry from your past that you're afraid to let go? Pause here, reader. Think about it. Your answer might shift how you see Evelyn and Jack. And if their story grips you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales that pull you in and don't let go. The manor began to change, slowly, like a body waking from a coma. They cleared debris, patched walls, and pried open windows to banish the stale air. Each task brought them closer, their conversations shifting from cautious to candid. Over coffee in the kitchen, Evelyn confessed she'd built a career in finance, climbing corporate ladders until she realized she was hollow. "I thought success would fix me," she said, stirring her mug. "It just made me lonelier." Jack shared his own scars, his father's death in a car accident, his mother's long illness, the way to keeping the garage afloat, while Marlowe whispered he'd never be enough. "This town's my home," he said, "but it's also my cage." One night, as they sorted through artifacts in the study, Evelyn found a locket with a photo of her mother, young and laughing, her eyes free of the bitterness Evelyn remembered. She clutched it, tears falling. "I don't want to be them, Jack. Always performing, always breaking." "You're not," he said, his voice soft. He reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away, but the town's gossip simmered. Marlowe's diner buzzed with rumors about Evelyn's return, calling her a spoiled heiress slumming it, using Jack for her own ends. "She'll leave again," they said. "Always does." Jack overheard it one morning, the words cutting deeper than he'd admit. Doubt festered, and one evening, as they worked in the basement, reinforcing the walls, he snapped. "Is this a game to you?" he asked, his voice sharp. "Call the poor mechanic. Playhouse. Then run back to your real life?" Evelyn's face crumpled. "You think I'd do that? After everything?" "I don't know what to think," he shouted. "You left once. What's stopping you now?" She stepped closer, eyes blazing. "I'm here, Jack. I'm trying. But you're so busy guarding your heart, you can't see it." He stormed out, the rain swallowing his footsteps, his truck's engine roaring into the night. The silence stretched for days. Jack threw himself into work, ignoring the ache in his chest, the way his hands itched to fix something he couldn't name. Evelyn stayed at the manor, alone with the journal, piecing together the truth. One entry stopped her cold. Her father had borrowed $10,000 from Tom Harper to save the manor from foreclosure, promising to repay it. He never did. When Tom died, the debt was forgotten, but the guilt haunted Edward until his death. Worse, Edward had known about a land deal that could have saved Tom's garage from financial strain, but kept silent, fearing it would expose his own failures. Evelyn drove to the garage, the journal in her bag, rain streaking her windshield. Jack was under a car, his hands black with oil. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. He slid out, wary, his jaw tight. "What now?" She handed him the journal, open to the entry. "Your father was a hero. Mine was a coward. But they both wanted us to be better." Jack read, his anger softening, replaced by something heavier, grief, maybe, or recognition. "Why show me this?" "Because I'm not leaving," she said. "Not this time. And I need you to believe that." He looked at her, rain drumming on the roof, and saw the girl he'd saved, the woman she'd become. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice rough. "I was scared." "So was I," she whispered. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His lips grazed her forehead, a promise more than a kiss. And for a moment, the world was just them, the rain and the truth. But the manor held one last secret, one that threatened to unravel everything. While clearing the attic, Evelyn found a locked trunk, its leather cracked, its clasp engraved with a Whitmore crest. Jack pried it open, revealing a bundle of documents in a small, sealed envelope addressed to the heir of Whitmore Manor. Evelyn's hands trembled as she broke the seal. Inside was a letter from her mother, Claire, written days before her death in a car accident when Evelyn was 16. "My darling," it began, "if you're reading this, you've come home. I failed you, not because I didn't love you, but because I loved too fiercely and lost myself. Your father and I built a cage of our own making, but you can break it. The manor is yours, not to haunt you, but to heal. There's a trust hidden from Edward for you to use as you see fit. And if Tom Harper's boy is still in Marlowe, trust him. He's the best of us." Evelyn's knees buckled, and Jack caught her, his arms steady. The documents detailed a trust fund, modest but enough to restore the manor or start anew. But the letter's weight was heavier than money. It was absolution, a mother's plea for her daughter to live free. Why didn't she tell me? Evelyn whispered, tears streaming. Why hide this? Jack held her, his voice low. Maybe she thought you weren't ready. Maybe she was scared, too. That night, they sat in the study, the letter between them, and made a plan. The manor wouldn't be a monument of pain. It would be a retreat, a haven for those carrying quiet wounds. Veterans, grieving families, anyone needing a place to breathe. The trust would fund the start. But they'd need the town's help to make it real. The work intensified. They stripped moldy wallpaper, sanded floors, and planted gardens, each act of defiance of the past. Jack brought tools and know-how. Evelyn brought vision and grit. The town noticed, and slowly, the gossip turned to curiosity, then support. Neighbors arrived with paint cans, casseroles, and stories of their own struggles, divorces, losses, dreams deferred. Marlowe, long divided by class and rumor, began to knit together. One evening, as they painted the dining room, Evelyn traced a scar on Jack's knuckles. What's this from? Punching a wall when I was 17, he said, sheepish. Thought I could fix everything with my fists. She laughed, the sound warm, like sunlight breaking through clouds. And now I fix things with you. Their bond deepened, built on small, tender moments. Shared meals, late-night talks, a dance in the kitchen to a scratchy radio. But the manor's transformation wasn't without setbacks. A pipe burst, erasing days of work. A local councilman, bitter about the Whitmore name, tried to block their permits, claiming the retreat would disrupt Marlowe's character. Evelyn faced him at a town meeting, her voice steady, recounting her parents' failures but also their hopes. This isn't about me, she said. It's about us. All of us. The room erupted in applause, and the permits were granted. The manor's first community dinner was a triumph, a beacon in Marlowe's quiet history. Tables spilled across the lawn, lanterns glowing, laughter rising like music. Veterans shared stories of survival. Families toasted to new beginnings. Evelyn and Jack moved among the guests, their hands brushing, their smiles unguarded. The house, once a tomb, was alive, its walls humming with purpose. As the night wound down, they stood in the foyer, the last guest gone. Evelyn looked at the staircase, the chandelier, the walls that held their story. We did it, she said, her voice thick with emotion. No, Jack said, pulling her close, his breath warm against her hair. We're doing it. The ending was clear, not a fairy tale but a foundation. They weren't perfect. Doubts would creep in, arguments would flare, old wounds would ache. But they'd face it together, anchored by a house reborn and a love forged in truth. Whitmore Manor was no longer a relic of pain. It was a promise, a place where broken things could mend. Evelyn, once a runaway heiress, and Jack, once a guard mechanic, had built more than a retreat. They'd built a home, not just for others but for themselves. Under Marlowe's starlit sky, they stepped onto porch, hand in hand, the manor glowing behind them. The future wasn't certain, but it was theirs, and that was enough. The rain had stopped, and in its place was quiet, a quiet that felt like peace.